Part 10. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, She is Soft and Sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 91. Chapter 91. The most Versailles words I have ever heard. Since the trust between the two little guys was already in jeopardy, Yubeo stopped running outside for a while and went to the kindergarten honestly every day. Time flies. In a blink of an eye, Gu Xingzi had graduated from the senior class and was ready to go to elementary school. Even though Yu Bao and nephew Lu have finished the first class together, they are not yet old enough to go to elementary school, but they don't want to be separated from Gu Xingzi. The main reason is that Yu Bao doesn't want to, and nephew Lu really wants to go to kindergarten all the time. He heard that elementary school had to attend classes every day, and he had to do a lot of homework and take exams. He didn't want to go to elementary school at all. Under Yubeo's strong request, Yo-Yo's father went to school several times before finally convincing the principal and taking Yubeo to take the first grade entrance test in advance. Yubeo has been studying ancient seal script systematically in the past 2 years. She has dabbled in all the 5 Taoist arts, mountains, medicine, fortune-telling, and divination. Although I cannot say that I am proficient in everything, I have learned a lot about the contents of ancient seal scripts. She can even learn such a profound and unpredictable Kimen formation, let alone an elementary school entrance test. Of course it's not a problem for her. No school is willing to reject a smart child. Yubeo finally got full marks on the test and was allowed to enroll early. Young nephew Lu was also dragged along by sister-in-law Lu, but he failed the test and turned in a blank, so naturally he failed in the end. The little nephew Lu was so happy that he almost rolled on the ground at the thought of not having to go to elementary school. But his happiness only lasted until elementary school started. Looking at Yubeo and young Master Gu happily going to the new school together with their new school bags on their backs. But he was the only one going to the kindergarten, and the little nephew Lu instantly felt that he was abandoned by the whole world. Unhappy. A person gave up after going to kindergarten for 1 day, rolled around at home for 3 days, and cried while hugging second sister Lu's legs for 2 days. Mr. Lu finally found a way to find someone to support her and finally got her in. The 3 of them can finally go to school together again. However, this also became one of the decisions that Lu's nephew made the most regretful in his childhood. Lu Su also entered the 3rd grade of junior high school this year. As a prospective high school entrance examination candidate, his study tasks are obviously much heavier. Plus his sister is so good, and as an older brother, he doesn't want to be too far behind, so he has been working hard in the past 2 years, and his grades have directly jumped from the bottom to the first in the grade. On the other hand, Siesui still looked careless every day, dawdling in school and busy helping Yubeo with business. There is absolutely no pressure and worries of a prospective high school entrance examination student. In Siesui's words, if he fails to pass the high school entrance examination, the worst possible outcome is to ask his father to donate a building to the school. It's easier not to get into college, or at worst, you can just go home and inherit hundreds of millions of assets. This is probably the most Versailles statement that everyone has ever heard. However, although the other party is not reliable in his studies, his ability to help Yubeo receive business is very reliable. In the past 2 years, Yubeo has earned a lot of points. Compared to the beginning, when she could only earn a few meager points by rescuing cats and dogs, she is now a wealthy person who is about to have millions of points. On the 3rd day of school, new business came to my door. This time I subdued a resentful ghost. She was the mother of 2 children during her lifetime. The first child she gave birth to was a daughter. When the child was less than 2 years old, she was forced by her husband's family to have a second child. Who knew that the second child would still be a daughter? After her husband's family found out, they were not even willing to take care of her during the confinement period, and directly left the mother behind and returned to her hometown. Her husband also had a bad look on her, blaming her for not being able to give birth to a son because she wanted to ruin their family's future. The woman suffered from postpartum depression and jumped off a building with her 2 children when the younger one was 8 months old. But because he was unwilling to die, he turned into a resentful ghost, looking for her baby every day. The family that invited Yubeo to visit their home did so because their 3-year-old daughter had a high fever. It turns out that the female ghost couldn't find her child anywhere, so she regarded the daughter of this family as her eldest daughter, so she kept following her. The child's yang energy was weak, and the ghost followed him, so he developed a high fever that night. After going to the hospital to no avail, I found Yubeo. Of course, this is all thanks to Siesui. Because the other party spared no effort to help her get business, she gained a certain reputation among the rich circles of Yunjing. Otherwise, if everyone sees her as a child, they may not be willing to invite her. Since the female ghost did not hurt anyone in front of her, and the little girl who followed her just mistook her for her own daughter, Yubeo did not hurt her, but directly took her into the Daomu sword. He also promised to help her find her daughter, fulfill her wish, and then send her to reincarnation. That night, Yubao released the female ghost from the peachwood sword. "Little master, is it true that you said you would allow me to see my child?" The female ghost's voice was sad. She had been wandering around the world for several days, but she could not find her child. "I saw Yubao take out a magic talisman and write the birth dates of the 2 children on the back. After lighting the talisman, 2 small figures appeared in front of the female ghost after a while. Children's souls are the cleanest, because they don't understand anything yet, so they go directly to the ghost gate to queue up after death. Fortunately, there were many people queuing in front of the ghost gate and it wasn't their turn yet. Otherwise, there would be no way to help the female ghost fulfill her wish. Mom, the older one was already 3 years old. As soon as he saw the female ghost, he pounced on her. The younger one is only 8 months old and can't walk yet, but he still makes babbling noises and crawls towards the female ghost. Then he stretched out his hands, wanting the female ghost to hug her. Looking at the 2 poor daughters in front of her, they were still so young and had to be reincarnated before they had time to take a good look at the world. The female ghost regretted her mistake. "Hold my 2 daughters in my arms and couldn't help but shed tears." "Mom, don't cry." The eldest daughter saw her mother crying so sadly that she couldn't help but stretched out her hand to wipe her tears. The younger daughter also babbling and imitating her elder sister's movements. It was not the first time that Yubeo caught ghosts, but it was the first time that he felt that these 3 ghosts were so pitiful. His heart felt sour and his eyes couldn't help but turn red. After the 3 ghosts had cried enough, the female ghost knelt down towards Yubeo with her 2 children in her arms. "Thank you, little master. Thanks to you, mother and daughter can meet each other. I am willing to take the 2 children with me to reincarnate. Please help us, master." Yubao sniffed and said, "Your obsession is gone. I will send you down to reincarnate now. A yin chai will come to pick you up in a while. You just need to follow the yin chai uncles." Then he took out another red rope, tied the hands of mother and daughter together so that they would not be separated even if they went to the underworld. "Thank you, little master." The female ghost knelt down towards Yubao again. Yubao took out the 5 thunder order, as well as some items such as incense and paper money from the system. After lighting 3 incense sticks, he burned a stack of paper money next to it, and then tapped the table 3 times with the 5 thunder order, and soon 2 sinister figures appeared. End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 92. Chapter 92. Others don't have it. Yubeo was able to open the ghost gate a year ago, and finally sent the resentful spirits and ghosts in the Daomu sword to reincarnation together. It's just that Yubeo didn't expect that transcendence would be so expensive. Whether you are asking for sacred incense or paper money, you have to exchange it from the mall. Although you can buy it with money in reality, Yubeo's spiritual power is not enough, so incense and paper money in reality can't attract evil. Only incense and paper money from the system mall can be used. Every time at this time, Yubao always feels heartbroken. Congratulations to the host for completing the task of saving the resentful ghosts and doing good deeds. The system rewards 30,000 points. Congratulations to the host for reaching 1 million points. The system will automatically upgrade. The host will receive a system upgrade gift package and a lucky draw opportunity. Congratulations to the host for increasing the storage space by 10 spaces. The next upgrade will be worth 10 million points. Yubeo, who has just been upgraded to a primary school student, finally successfully ushered in the third upgrade of the system. The last time I upgraded was when I reached 100,000 points. At that time, the system also gave her a big gift package, but they were all useless things. System, it's clear that the host is ignorant. Yubeo clicks to open the big gift package. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the top grade spiritual weapon Bagua Furnace, which contains the true fire of Samadhi and can refine all things. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a purple forest grass, 3 green fairy grass, and a 7-star sand. System, this is the same type of elixir furnace used by Tai's Hanglajun. It can refine high-grade elixirs. Purple forest grass and 7-star sand are the basic materials for alchemy. With these, the host can refine some elementary elixirs. Now the host shouldn't think that things are useless, right? It has never been a stingy system. Hearing the words, Yubeo was eager to give it a try, so he locked himself in the room that night and did not allow others to disturb him. At 3 o'clock in the morning, a strange fragrance came from Yubeo's room. The whole house was bathed in the strange fragrance, causing all the little animals around to come running over. Yubeo opened the alchemy furnace, and there were 3 formed elixirs lying inside. The elixir has a round body and a dark color throughout. There is a fascinating light flowing on it, and the 3 pills all have clear lines. One of them even has 2 pill patterns. The first time I made alchemy, I made 2 first-grade elixirs and 1 second-grade elixir. I am worthy of being a lucky koi. Yubeo was so sleepy at the moment that he could hardly open his big eyes. But the moment I saw the elixir taking shape, my eyes couldn't help but light up. It seemed like I heard the sound of a lot of points arriving in my account. Yubeo directly placed the elixir in the sales column of the system mall, and it immediately showed that 200,000 points could be obtained. Yubeo's little hand fell on the confirmation, but he didn't click on it. This is the first elixir she has mastered, and Yubeo wants to give one to Mr. Liu. The temperature has changed a lot recently. Mr. Liu has suffered from an old illness and has been coughing. Yubeo hesitated for a long time between the first and second grades, and finally reluctantly chose the second grade Pei Yuan Dan. Click to sell the remaining 2 Yupan Dan. Congratulations to the host for gaining 100,000 points, and the remaining points are 1.1 million points. Yubeo packed the porcelain bottle of the second grade elixir and put it in the storage compartment, planning to give it to Mr. Liu as soon as dawn. Second grade Pei Yuan Dan can quickly restore vitality, cure illnesses, and strengthen the body without illness. I think Grandpa will be cured by taking this pill. When we woke up the next day, everyone felt refreshed. Only Yubeo slept too late last night and was woken up by the alarm clock in the morning. He yawned and got up from the bed in a daze. Halfway through brushing my teeth with my eyes closed, I suddenly remembered something and I suddenly woke up. Immediately clicked on the system and took a look at the points balance to make sure that I was not dreaming. I really made the Pei Yuan pill last night. Yubeo giggled twice, washed up in a hurry, took out the bottle of Pei Yuan Dan from the system storage compartment, and ran towards Mr. Liu's room on his short legs. Old people don't sleep well. Normally, Mr. Liu would have woken up long ago, but last night he had a rare good sleep. When Yubeo passed by, Mr. Liu had just woken up. Grandpa, eat. Yubeo held the Pei Yuan pill in his hand and raised it to Mr. Liu's mouth, urging him to open his mouth. The old man took a look and saw that his granddaughter was holding a round ball that looked like chocolate in her hand. He thought his granddaughter had invited him to eat candy early in the morning, so Mr. Lu opened his mouth and took it without thinking too much. Grandparents and grandsons cooperate tacitly, and it seems that they often feed them frequently. As soon as the round meatballs entered his mouth, Mr. Lu felt a strange fragrance spreading between his lips and teeth. Huh, not candy? The old man was about to ask, but as soon as he opened his mouth, the pill was swallowed with a dong sound. A warm feeling instantly arose in the body, the person no longer felt uncomfortable, the body became relaxed, and the whole person instantly became more than 100 times more energetic. Mr. Lu immediately knew that what his granddaughter was giving her was good food. He knew that his granddaughter was special. In the past 2 years, his grandson often took her out with him. Although the old man didn't know exactly what the two of them did, he could guess a little bit. Although he felt sorry for his sweet baby, who had to run around everywhere at a young age, but since it was what the sweet baby wanted to do, he naturally had no reason to stop him. With the Xie family in front, the old man also guessed that his granddaughter must have made a lot of money in private. The Lu family is not short of money, and naturally they will not covet the little things in their children's hands. However, who asked his sweet baby to be filial? Although he is young, he is the most filial among his descendants, and he is always very filial. His good stuff. So the old man's first reaction was that his granddaughter must have bought something good to honor him. Yo Bao, what did you give grandpa to eat just now? The old man asked eagerly. He didn't know what a good thing it was, but it was so magical. Just for a moment, he already felt as if his body was several years younger. It's the elixir made by Yu Bao. Give it to grandpa. Grandpa will get better quickly, Yu Bao replied, making a silent gesture towards the old man and saying, "Shh, grandpa is not allowed to tell others only have one treasure, and others don't have it." The old man immediately laughed when he heard this. There was only one thing, so Guobao gave it to her. It shows that he is the most important in Guobao's heart. The old man was very worried, and his love for her was indeed not in vain. The old man suddenly reacted when he was halfway laughing. Wait a minute, what did you just say? Yo Bao, elixir, second grade Pe Wen Dan, it can be exchanged for 100,000 points. Thinking of the lost points, Yu Bao couldn't help but feel a twinge of pain. Fortunately, she now has an alchemy furnace and points that can be exchanged for medicinal materials, so she can continue to refine elixirs at any time. Thinking of this, the heartache eased a little. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 93. Chapter 93, When you meet once, you lose one. Ever since he last heard about the life-sustaining elixir from the Cao family, the old man has paid special attention to the word elixir. There are very few alchemists nowadays, and elixirs are only available on the black market, and there is still a price but no market. A defective elixir can be sold for tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. And high-grade elixirs can be sold for hundreds of millions. Just now the eldest granddaughter said that he took the second-grade Pe Wen pill. The second-grade pill? He actually took the second-grade pill. That's a pill worth millions that others can't even buy with huge sums of money. He was eaten by him just like that. The old man finally reacted belatedly, his eyes widened in shock, and his beard trembled with excitement. How can you eat such a good thing so casually? Should be kept in reserve for critical moments to save lives. I heard that even the most powerful alchemists today can make third-grade pills, and my granddaughter can actually make second-grade pills with just one shot. Furthermore, she just said, she practiced it herself? Hey, treasure. Do you still have some elixirs? Can you show them to Grandpa? Mr. Lu looked at her with burning eyes. But just after I asked, I remembered that my granddaughter had just said that there was only one. That's right, it's hard to find such a top-quality elixir. The old man was deeply moved when he thought that his little granddaughter actually gave him such a valuable thing. It's really not in vain to hurt her. Yu Bao shook his head and said, no more, but if Grandpa wants to see it, you can wait. When Yu Bao refines a better elixir, he can give it to Grandpa, although Pei Yuan Dan doesn't want the life-sustaining pill to bring the dead back to life, but if long-term use can also increase lifespan. Furthermore, since she can refine the Yuan building pill, she will also be able to refine the life-sustaining pill sooner or later. Okay, okay, the old man burst into laughter upon hearing this. When he thought about the elixir that no one else could ask for outside, his granddaughter could easily make it and give it to him. Mr. Lu feels that his life has reached its peak. I have no regrets about having a family full of children and grandchildren, especially in my later years when I have such a soft, well-behaved, sensible, and filial little granddaughter. If you really want to say that there is, it probably means that when you get older, your friends around you disappear one by one. Looking at his precious little granddaughter, the old man suddenly said, hey, baby, we are not going to school today. How about accompanying Grandpa to meet an old friend? The big grape-like eyes blinked and blinked. Grandpa's friend must also be an old grandpa, right? The car stopped in front of a small bungalow with red bricks and green tiles. Yu Bao got out of the car first, then went around to the other side to help Mr. Lu. Grandpa, please slow down. Mr. Lu got down from the car, looked at the house in front of him and said, Yu Bao, you can help Grandpa take a look later. How many years does the old man inside have left to live? Bah, who are you, old man, cursing? Don't worry, I will definitely live longer than you. Along with a strong voice, an old man about the same age as Mr. Lu was seen walking out with a cane. Come out. This is an old man about 70 years old, with a sharp face and a strong evil aura on his body. Although he is disabled and old, he does not have the slightest aura of submission to his old age. The old illness relapsed. While lying in bed, what the old man thought about most was these old friends. No, I feel a little better now, so I want to come and take a look. At their age, when they meet once, they lose something. I think that when the two of them joined the army together, they didn't know each other before they fought. They competed with each other for a lifetime. Now that he is old, what he misses most is his old bones. When they were in the army, the two of them competed for military flowers together, but they themselves lost. Mr. Lu, who has been stubborn and strong all his life, has always been worried about this. But I only lost once, and I was much better than him in other aspects. It's like having a beautiful and filial granddaughter, but the other party doesn't. Mr. G's eyes fell on Yu Bao, and the expression on his face relaxed a little and softened a bit. I didn't expect that you, an old man, could actually give birth to such a beautiful little granddaughter. Little girl, what is your name? Hello Grandpa, my name is Yu Bao, Yu Bao greeted obediently. The little girl smiled sweetly and was not afraid of the strange old man in front of her at all. You're not afraid of me? Mr. G glanced at her in surprise. You must know that all the children nearby were afraid of him. The little girl in front of him looked delicate and soft, but he didn't expect that she was braver than the average person. Grandpa is good looking, the little girl said, staring into the old man's eyes. Mr. G was startled for a moment, and a figure could not help but appear in front of his eyes. That person had also said that he was good looking. Over the years, in the eyes of others, he was a gloomy and lonely old man. This was the first time since that man left that someone praised him for his good looks. Mr. G couldn't help but look at the little girl with a softer look. After all these years, there was a rare smile on his cold and gloomy face. Really? Which one is more beautiful, me or your grandpa? The little girl couldn't help but widen her eyes when she heard this. This old man is not kind. She has praised him, so how can he dig a hole for her in turn? Little girl, although you are very handsome, grandpa, Yubeo still likes his grandpa more. In Yubeo's heart, Yubeo's grandpa is the best and most handsome person. Mr. Lu burst out laughing. Mr. G couldn't help but smile, she was a smart little girl. Then he looked at Mr. Lu with some jealousy. This man has no other abilities, except that he can't compare with anyone else, that is, he can give birth to 2 sons, 5 grandsons, and a little granddaughter, not to mention he already has several great-grandchildren. Thinking of his wife and children who died young, Mr. G's eyes couldn't help but darken. He and Old Man Lu had disliked each other since they were young. They always had to compete with each other when they met, and their daily interactions were not close. Could it be that the other party came suddenly just to show off his granddaughter to him? Yu Bao, on the other hand, knew the purpose of bringing him here just by looking at Mr. G. This is probably the worst fate Yu Bao has ever seen. Grandpa, do you have a grandson? She asked, raising her little head. When mentioning his grandson, the smile on Mr. G's face couldn't help but deepen. Yes. Grandpa G will introduce you to my eldest brother someday. But Yubeo said with a serious face, no, I'm afraid I can't wait until another day. Grandpa G should hurry up and get my little brother back. Mr. G looked at her in surprise, and even Mr. Lu couldn't help but tense up. He knows what his little granddaughter is capable of and would never say such a thing without any reason. Could it be? Mr. Lu couldn't help but glance at his old friend worriedly. Mr. G was a little confused by the posture of his grandfather and grandson. His eyelids twitched inexplicably and he said, no, old Lu, what does this girl mean? End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 94. Chapter 94 The Little Brother Who Makes Soy Sauce. Yobao glanced at the old man worriedly and said, Grandpa G, your grandson is going to be in big trouble soon. You'd better call Brother G back quickly. Maybe you can avoid the disaster. What did you say? What happened to my grandson? Mr. G was shocked. Yubao, Grandpa G's grandson is in danger of a calamity, and it is a calamity of death if it cannot be resolved. The old man will have to send the white-haired man to the black-haired man again. Nonsense! The old man's face instantly turned red with anger. If she hadn't seen that she was still a child, the crutch in her hand would probably have hit her. He glared at him and said, you are not allowed to curse my grandson. The old man lost his wife and son, and his daughter-in-law remarried the year after his son died. The old man raised his grandson alone. His grandson is his life. Grandpa G, Yubeo did not curse your grandson. What Yubeo said is true, but don't worry, Yubeo has a way to save his brother. Xiao Nebeo tried to explain seriously. It's just that Mr. G couldn't listen to a word at this time. It's a matter of grandson, and it's not good at all for the old man not to listen. Come on, let's go, you little girl, you are young, you have a vicious mouth, you are just as annoying as your grandfather, I don't welcome you here, please leave quickly. Mr. G picked up his crutch and started to chase people away. Yubeo never lies to people. Yubeo calculated Mr. G's fate as soon as he saw his face. He felt that he was very pitiful. Moreover, he was also his grandfather's friend. Yubeo wanted to help her very much. Grandpa, you are 33 this year. You lost your father when you were young, your wife when you were middle-aged, and you lost your son when you were old. Now you are about to lose your only grandson. Who would have thought that? After hearing this, Mr. G's face only changed slightly, and he soon straightened his face again and said, Humph, these are not secrets. Even if you know it, it doesn't mean anything. Since she is Old Man Lu's granddaughter, I think Old Man Lu told her all this. Mr. Lu guessed that Yubao must have seen something, but when his little granddaughter personally said the words that the eldest grandson of the G family was in danger of death, his heart still beat hard. "Old G, my granddaughter has been here since she was a child. She was sent out to learn some skills from the Taoist priest in the mountains. I brought her here today because I originally wanted her to show you the house. There are only a few old people left in our generation, and I just want you. You can stay with me for a few more years. I know you don't believe this, but there are some things you really have to believe in. Why don't you call me back and take a look?" Yo Bao also nodded. "Grandpa Ji, please call your brother back and ask Yo Bao to check for him. Yu Bao really doesn't lie." "No need, my grandson is very good, you go away quickly." Mr. Ji chased them away with a cold face, then pointed at Mr. Lu and cursed, "You old man Lu, why are you so kind to come see me? You are here to curse me. You are not welcome in our G family, please take your granddaughter out of here." Little Nabeo also has a temper. It's okay to scold Yobeo, but it's not allowed to scold Yobeo's grandfather. At that moment, he puffed up his face and said angrily, "Grandpa, forget it if he doesn't believe it. Let's go. Anyway, it's not your grandson who is in trouble. Yobao has already reminded him. It's him who doesn't believe it." Mr. Lu felt sorry for his granddaughter who had been wronged, but at the same time he couldn't bear the pain of bereavement for his old friend again. He persuaded him again, "Old G, just believe me once. Even if the calculation is wrong, it doesn't matter. After all, this concerns the great-nephew. You don't want him to have an accident and regret it later." Mr. G's hand holding the cane couldn't help but tremble, and there was a clear wavering in his eyes. He has been a soldier for decades and has never believed in ghosts and gods, but when it comes to his eldest grandson, he does not dare to take risks. He looked at Yu Bao and said, "Is everything you said true?" Yo Bao nodded, "Grandpa, if your children's palace is dim, you will have no luck with children, and your children and grandchildren will have bad luck. Horizontal lines appear on the roots of the mountain, which means that your loved ones are about to encounter an accident. The old man lost his father, mother, wife, and son, and the only remaining relative is his grandson. This is the only grandson I have left. Why won't God let me go? I have protected my family and country all my life and have never done anything bad. God is unfair." Hearing that his only grandson might also encounter an accident, "Gee," the old man said with red eyes. "It has nothing to do with God. Did you kill a fox in the mountains when you were a child?" Xiao Nai said in a clear and soft voice, "It's the great fox immortal who is here to seek revenge on you." Mr. G was shocked. He had never told anyone about this. How did she know about it? That year there was a drought in his hometown, and when he was still a child, he followed his father to the mountains to look for food. The father and son met a fox on the mountain. It was a pregnant female fox. She was so hungry that only skin and bones were left, and her big belly was particularly obvious. At that time, the fox looked at the father and son, seemingly pleading. Mr. G couldn't bear it and wanted to beg his father to let it go. But the family was so poor that they had no rice to cook with. In the end, my father shot the fox with a shotgun and sold the fox skin to provide food for the family. Unfortunately, my father died of an illness not long after." After hearing Xiao Yubeo's words, one can imagine the shock in Mr. G's heart. Thinking of his wife and son who died young, it turned out that all these were the sins of himself and his father. But why didn't the great fox take his life? He is obviously the one who deserves to die. Mr. G was already shaken when Yubeo said the words "killed the fox." No one except himself knew about this past incident. It is possible to hear someone else tell you about the loss of a wife or son, but then the other person can only figure it out on their own. And she had just calculated that her grandson was in danger of great calamity. "Please find a way to save Ching-er." Mr. G finally lowered his head and said. "Old man Lu is right, it doesn't matter if he calculates it wrong, but what if it's true? Ji's family only had this little blood left, and he couldn't afford to take any risks. Yubeo learned from Mr. Ji that the eldest grandson of the Ji family was studying at Yunjing University, and immediately decided to go to Yunjing University in person. Mr. Lu wanted to accompany her, but she refused. She asked Mr. Lu to stay with Mr. Ji, and then asked the driver to drive her to Yunjing University. Yobao is wearing a pink bunny-shaped dress today, with a long-eared bunny backpack on her back, plus she looks cute. Attracted everyone's attention as soon as he got off the car. "Are you, Sister Yobao?" suddenly a voice sounded from the crowd. Li Zhenyuan looked at the little girl who appeared at the school gate and felt that she looked unusually familiar. He recognized it almost immediately. The little girl has grown a little taller, but the little fat on her face has not decreased at all, and she still looks so cute. End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 95. Chapter 95 Call the Police. Big Brother, Yubeo also recognized the other person as the brother he met at the resort 2 years ago. Yubao still remembers that his eldest brother said before that he was a student in the Fine Arts Department of Yunjing University. It just so happens that Grandpa Ji's grandson is also an art major. "Yobao, brother, I'm here to find someone. His name is Ji Qing, and he is also a student in the Fine Arts Department of Yunjing University. Do you know him, big brother? Are you looking for Ji Qing?" A hint of surprise flashed across Li Zhenyuan's face. "You know me, big brother," Yubeo blinked. It seemed that her luck was really good. Li Zhenyuan smiled and said, "He is my roommate, but he didn't come to class today. Do you have anything to do with him? The other party has not come back since he left yesterday. Because the other party's home is in Yunjing and he occasionally goes home to live, so he did not come back at night." Li Zhenyuan and the other two roommates did not pay attention. Yubeo Ziona said softly and cutely, "He will be in some trouble recently, and his grandpa asked me to help solve it. Let me call you and ask." Li Zhenyuan thought of what happened at the resort. The trouble she was talking about couldn't be that kind of trouble, right? As a result, I tried calling many times, but no one answered. "Yobao, brother, do you have anything belonging to the other person around? Or it can be something that the other person has touched or is contaminated with the other person's breath. Can you use paint? He just ran out of paint and the new ones haven't arrived yet. He borrowed the other party's paint box and hasn't returned it yet." "Okay," Yubeo nodded his little head. I immediately took off my backpack and took out a compass. This compass was given as a gift during the second system upgrade. However, Yubeo is rarely used. In her opinion, it would be more cost-effective to just give her points. Yubao placed the paint on the ground and placed the compass on top of the paint. As soon as the compass came close to the paint, the pointer in the middle began to rotate rapidly. Finally points in one direction. Yubao raised his head, looked at the direction specified by the compass and said, "Brother, do you know where that place is?" Li Zhenyuan followed her line of sight and said, "That's the back hill of the school. Very few people go there." "Thank you, brother." Yubao immediately packed up his backpack and planned to go up the mountain to have a look. Li Zhenyuan saw this and followed her. "Are you going up the mountain?" Yubeo nodded and said, "Brother Ji is probably on the mountain. I want to take a look." "I'll go with you," Li Zhenyuan said. It was too dangerous for a little child to go up the mountain. "Thank you, brother," Yubeo did not refuse. She was not afraid of danger. But before going out, he did a divination for his brother Ji, and the divination showed that the result was not very good. The other party is probably in danger at this time. Although the person is still alive, the situation is not optimistic. Although it is possible to go up the mountain alone, it will definitely be more convenient if there are more than one person. After all, I have small hands and feet. If the other person is unconscious or injured, I can't touch him. It is said to be the mountain behind the school, but in fact it is a large mountain range, covering more than 10 square kilometers. It is not easy to find someone. I heard that a young couple was killed on the mountain a few years ago, and the back mountain has been rumored to be haunted, so few people have gone to the mountain in the past 2 years. Standing at the foot of the mountain, Li Zhenyuan looked up at the dense forest in front of him. The trees were heavily shadowed and shaded like a curtain. Even the original road up the mountain was mostly covered with weeds and dead leaves. Li Zhenyuan, are you sure that Jiqing is really here? Yubao nodded. The compass pointing will generally not be wrong, after all, it is produced by the system. Li Zhenyuan couldn't help but frown. He believed in Yubao's ability. Ever since he picked off those copper coins, no bad luck had happened to him. And as soon as I returned to school, I was informed that the painting I had participated in the competition had won the award. Even his girlfriend came back to get back together with him, but he felt that they didn't get along with each other, so he finally chose to break up. But since then, his luck has become very good, and his paintings have won several awards. Even his friends teased him about his luck. Li Zhenyuan knew that these were all the work of the little girl in front of him. So he believed Yubao when he said Jiqing was in trouble. It's just that the other party has been missing all night. Didn't he go up the mountain last night? Having not come down from the mountain all night, it can be seen that the other party's condition is probably not good. Li Zhenyuan, how about we call the police? Such a big mountain, just the two of them don't know when they will find it. If the other party is in danger now, the sooner you find him, the sooner you can escape. Yubao, without evidence, the police will not believe us. Li Zhenyuan was silent. It's because he is confused and can't think clearly as a child. Jiqing is over 18 years old and is an adult. He has been missing for less than 24 hours. The police will not accept a simple missing person report. But if it is said that the other party may be in danger on the mountain waiting for them to rescue them, and there is no evidence, it cannot be said that these are all calculated. At that time, the police may think there is something wrong with the two of them. The compass needle turned again, Yubao found a direction, and then said to Li Zhenyuan, "Brother, don't worry, with Yubao here, we will find him soon." Yubao never doubted his own luck. Okay, Li Zhenyuan glanced at her and nodded. There is always an inexplicable trust in her that transcends age. Sure enough, within 10 minutes of walking, Yubao saw the figure lying in the woods. "Here," she said. Li Zhenyuan stepped forward and saw that he was indeed his roommate. I saw that the other party had been lying in the mountain for who knows how long. It looked like he had fallen from a high place. His face was pale, his lips were cyanotic, and he was unconscious. Jiqing, Jiqing, Li Zhenyuan called several times, but there was no response. Then he looked at Yubao and said, "What should I do? Do you want to call the police? The other party would not be unconscious on the mountain for no reason. Something must have happened. If there were other people present, they would definitely be surprised that an adult on the other side would ask a 5 or 6-year-old girl for advice. Yubao, it's useless to call the police, just call 120. The person who hurt people is not a human being. Even if the police are called, the murderer will not be found." As Yubao spoke, he took out a piece of talisman paper. The talisman paper spontaneously ignited without fire, and green flames emerged. Yubao closed his eyes and quickly circled the burning talisman 3 times along the opponent's forehead. The talisman was burned out, leaving only a wisp of green smoke. After a while, the eyelids of the man lying on the ground moved slightly. "Hiss, why am I here?" As soon as Jiqing opened his eyes, he saw his roommate and the trees in his eyes, and subconsciously wanted to sit up. But he fell back down just halfway up. I covered my head and took a breath, feeling pain everywhere in my body. Seeing him wake up, Li Zhenyuan breathed a sigh of relief and said, I want to ask you another question. You didn't come back last night. Did you spend the night in the mountains? Ji Qing was stunned for a moment when he heard this. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 96. Chapter 96. Let this kid recognize you as your master. He actually went up the mountain with his girlfriend. He met a girl some time ago. She is beautiful and has a good figure. She is simply the ideal type in his dream. His muse. At first he just wanted the other person to be his model. After several contacts, he found that the other person also liked him, and the two soon started dating. Yesterday, the other party finally agreed to be his model, but he asked to go to the top of the mountain behind the school to paint. He had also heard some rumors about the school, but Ji Qing came from a military family and was more courageous than ordinary people, so the two of them immediately went up the mountain. But when he climbed halfway up the mountain, fog suddenly began to appear in the mountain. He felt a hand push him from behind, and then he fell down the mountain. When he rolled down the cliff, he saw his girlfriend standing behind him just now, watching him roll down with an indifferent expression. But he didn't understand why the other party did that. Ji Qing pursed her lips and said nothing. The sudden silence made Li Zhenyuan realize that things were not simple. Took out his mobile phone and asked him if he wanted to call the police. Ji Qing was silent for a while and then said, I want to call first and ask why she did this. Li Zhenyuan was even more surprised. Not only was his fall not an accident, but the murderer was also known to him. But when he took out his phone, he found that the phone number, WeChat message, and all chat records that originally belonged to the other party were gone. How so? Could it be that the other party deleted all the records while he was unconscious? But why on earth did the other party do this? Brother, what you met is not a human at all but a vixen. No, it's the soul of a fox. The vixen is a spirit cultivated by foxes, and what Ji Qing met was the female fox who was beaten to death and skinned. Because he was unwilling to die, he turned into an innocent ghost and followed Ji's family all the time. Ji's father beat her and the child in her belly to death, and he also wanted the Ji family to have no descendants. Sounds pretty fair. Ji Qing woke up just now, and the first thing he saw was the little girl in front of him. The little girl has red lips, white teeth, soft and waxy lips, which makes people feel inexplicably close to her. Especially the serious way he speaks is quite interesting. As for what the other party just said, Ji Qing didn't take it to heart at all. In his opinion, it is just a child who has heard too many stories and has no inhibitions. Little sister, there are no vixens in this world, he said with a smile, and then looked at Li Zhenyuan. She is your sister? She is quite cute. Li Zhenyuan looked at him with a complicated expression and said, she came to you specifically, and I think you can believe her words. What are you talking about? Why are you talking nonsense like a child? Where in the world does a vixen come from? Oh no, the spirit of the fox? Li Zhenyuan, I mean what I said. Ji Qing was startled for a moment, especially after making sure that the other party was not joking with him. The expression on his face gradually became stiff. At this moment, Ji Qing's cell phone rang. The call was from Mr. Ji. After Yubeo left, Mr. Ji became uneasy. During this period, he called Ji Qing several times, but no one answered. It was easy to get through, so I immediately asked where my grandson was. Then he asked him indirectly if he had encountered anything special recently. Ji Qing was originally worried that the old man would be worried. He was about to say that he was at school and everything was fine. Suddenly, a small hand from beside him reached out and took away his phone, then threw him into the mountain stream. He told Mr. G about his injury. Ji Qing wanted to get his phone back, but he was injured and couldn't move. He could only stare at Yubao with wide eyes and an unhappy expression. The little girl looks so sweet and soft, why is she so rude? How did her parents teach her to grab other people's mobile phones and answer other people's calls? Before he could have a seizure, Yubao returned the phone to him and said, "Grandpa G has something to tell you." Yubao also knew that it was impolite to grab someone else's phone, and she was not usually like this. It's just that Mr. G didn't believe him, and he misunderstood his grandpa and said so many unpleasant things. She wanted to prove that she was not lying and that grandpa was not who he said he was. Ji Qing was confused after answering the phone. After Mr. G heard about his grandson's accident, he was silent for a moment and then told him that the little girl in front of him was his savior and asked him to listen to what she said, and what she said was true. As for the fox thing, wait until he comes back and explain it to him slowly. Mr. G also told him Yubao's identity on the phone and told him to just do it no matter what the other party said. Ji Qing stared at the phone in a daze. Feeling as if I had a dream. Soon 120 appeared at the foot of the mountain, and not long after, Ji Qing was sent to the hospital for treatment. Ji Qing had multiple fractures on his body and was accompanied by a moderate concussion. Fortunately, he was discovered in time and received treatment. If he had been unconscious and lying in the mountains without being discovered, he would have probably suffered from heart and lung failure or even death due to body hypothermia. There is nothing wrong in saying that the little girl is his benefactor. Fortunately, Yubao found him in time, otherwise, he would have died if he had been left unconscious in the mountains for a few days. In the hospital, looking at his eldest grandson lying on the hospital bed, Mr. G felt heartbroken, but he was also happy. At least he saved a life, which can be regarded as a blessing in misfortune. For the grace of saving my life, let this boy recognize you as your master. A master has his duties, and his disciples must obey them. If you have anything to do in the future, just ask this boy to do it. Mr. G knew that he had misunderstood the Lu family and his grandson, but he couldn't bear to apologize. He and Mr. Lu had been arguing for a lifetime, but he didn't expect that he would owe such a huge debt. From now on, he is destined to be a head shorter in front of old man Lu, but if he can exchange for his grandson's life, he will admit that he will be a head shorter. He also saw that the little granddaughter of the Lu family was really capable. Now that the fox's soul has not been captured, he doesn't know when it will come out again and let the eldest grandson become the little girl's disciple. If anything happens, the other party will always protect him. Even if one day he passes away, his grandson will not be alone in this world. What's more, there are 5 brothers behind the other party. The grandson recognizes his master. From now on, the Lu family will be one of their own and will always take care of him. I have to say that Mr. G's abacus was very good. However, this is only his unilateral idea, and it requires someone to cooperate. Ji Qing was shocked when he heard this. "Grandpa, I think you are an old fool, right?" He was actually asked to call a little kid his master. What could he teach him? Yobao said that he has a lot to teach. Making talismans, fortune-telling, reading feng shui, medical skills, ancient martial arts, alchemy, she knows a little bit of everything. Although he is not proficient, it is more than enough to teach him. End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 97. Chapter 97. Have you gained weight again recently? In this way, Yubao accepted a disciple in a daze. Moreover, the apprentice was quite unconvinced with her. But it doesn't matter. If the child is disobedient, it's probably because he doesn't clean up too much. If he cleans up a few times, he will become more obedient. Since you have accepted a disciple, you are one of your own. Yubao did what he did that night to draw out the resentful spirit of the fox. Although the other party had several lives on its hands, it was considered a cycle of cause and effect, and Yubao did not embarrass it and sent it directly to reincarnation. And it is up to the Lord of Hell to decide what kind of child the other person will be born into in his next life. Ji Qing was also present when doing the work, so he had to let him know what he liked during this time. Having witnessed the resentful fox spirit that was beaten back to its original form, one can imagine the shock Ji Qing received. He probably won't want to have a girlfriend again in a short time. And having seen Yu Bao's abilities with his own eyes, his resistance to becoming a disciple was not that strong after all. The sun is scorching. A group of teenagers were running wildly on the court. There are 2 school bags at Yu Bao's feet, and he is holding one in his arms. He covered his mouth with his little hand and yawned out of boredom. Little by little, the little head dozed off like a chicken pecking at rice. I was in a daze, and my body suddenly fell to the side. Gu Xingzi came over to drink water. He was halfway through drinking when he looked up and saw this scene. He subconsciously reached out and held the other person's chin. Someone was sleeping so unconsciously that he didn't even realize that he almost fell down, but he even rubbed his palm. With a soft, kitten-like face, Gu Xingzi's palms were itching, but he couldn't bear to pull them away. He greeted Lu Xuan, who was running on the court and was covered in sweat. "Let's go." "Here we come." Lu Xuan kicked the ball towards the goal, turned around and ran towards the 2 of them. Gu Xingzi carried Yu Bao on his back, while Lu's nephew quickly picked up the 3 school bags on the ground and followed. Looking at the little girl lying on Gu Xingzi's back, sleeping unconsciously, Lu Xuan said with a distressed look on his face, "My little aunt must have been working too hard recently. She seems to have lost weight." Gu Xingzi clearly felt that the person on his back had sunk a little. What on earth gave him the illusion? "Do you think that girl has lost weight?" Gu Xingzi felt that it was necessary for the 2 of them to change things next time. Most people don't start smoking until they are 10 years old, but some people start smoking earlier, such as Gu Xingzi and Lu Xuan. Since they entered elementary school, the 2 of them have started to grow taller. I don't know if it's because they stay with Yu Bao all day long and have the luck of koi, so they are taller than their peers. On the other hand, the koi carp still has a pair of short legs, a bun face, and a soft ball. Standing next to the 2 of them, he was obviously shorter. "Stop, stop." Yu Bao was tempted to wake up by the smell of food. When he opened his eyes, he found himself lying on Gu Xingzi's back. Yu Bao was used to this. After being dazed for a while, he pushed Gu Xingzi and jumped off his back. After a while, the little girl walked out of the nearby shop, holding Odin in one hand and iced milk tea in the other. There was also a large cup of milk tea hooked on his finger. It was a pleasure to eat one bite from the left and one from the right. Gu Xingzi stared at her round face and couldn't help but said, "Eat less. Have you gained weight recently? You're just fat." "You told me I'm cute and growing," Yu Bao said guiltily. "Besides, I'm still growing. What's wrong with eating more?" Since she opened the storage space, she has become more and more comfortable in hiding snacks, and her round figure has not lost weight in a day. But Yu Bao is not worried at all. Anyway, when she grows up, she can take slimming pills, and then she will become as thin as a bolt of lightning and blind them. She is still young now, so she doesn't need to think about this for the time being. "My little aunt is not fat at all. My great-grandfather said, this is called blessing." Young nephew Lu has a skull bag in each hand and one hanging around his neck. He is trying to free his hands to take the big cup from Yu Bao. Knowing that Gu Xingzi didn't like drinking it, Yu Bao didn't buy it for him. He said very protectively. "Look, I just said I'm not fat at all." Yu Bao felt more confident in an instant. Gu Xingzi looked at Yu Bao, then at Lu Xuan and said nothing. Others are sister-controlled and daughter-controlled, but he almost has the words "little aunt controlled" carved on his forehead. "Master." At the gate of Lu's house, Yu Bao had just taken a bite of a fish ball, and the delicious soup flowed out of it. Before he had time to savor it, he was startled by a sudden sound from behind, and half of the fish ball got stuck in his throat. Yu Bao hurriedly beat his chest hard. When Gu Xingzi on the side saw this, his expression changed instantly. He hugged her from behind hurriedly, made fists with both hands, pressed them against his lower abdomen, and pushed hard several times. Ahem! Finally, half of the ball was spit out, and Yu Bao let out a deep breath. Others also breathed a sigh of relief. No, are you okay? Ji Qing was also frightened by this scene. If this scares people out of harm's way, my old man will be the first to spare himself. Not to mention the young and old of the Lu family, they have to protect this girl as if they are eyes, and they will eat her alive if something happens to her. However, Gu Xingzi turned around and gave him a cold look with a gloomy look. Ji Qing felt guilty after being seen. That look didn't look like a child's at all. Although the other party didn't say anything, it was clearly cold and reproachful. Obviously I am more than 10 years older than the little guy in front of me, but I was frightened by the look in his eyes just now. What a hell? Ji Qing said sarcastically, I didn't mean it. Yu Bao didn't mean to blame the other party. It was because she didn't pay attention and ate in a hurry. After taking 2 deep breaths, I felt a little better. Then I turned around and looked at the other person and said, "Why are you here?" "I got off work early today and came here to see Master." Ji Qing smiled and handed her the snacks he bought for her on the way here. Ji Qing has graduated from college and now works as an original painter in a game design company. Whether he wants it or not, it is a fact that the other party saved his life. If it could reassure Grandpa, he would have called Master's call. Furthermore, the Master's young age also has small advantages. He doesn't have to be scolded by the other party every day to set rules, and he is very easy to coax. He only needs to buy her delicious food from time to time. Mr. G didn't really want his grandson to learn feng shui and fortune-telling skills from her, but he just wanted his grandson to be safe and stable in this life, so that after he left, someone would still be with him. As for whether Sun Tzu can really learn something, it doesn't matter. But Yu Bao thinks that Ji Qing is a good candidate for Taoism. When she found the other person on the mountain, she knew that the other person had no relatives and a weak relationship. End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 98. Chapter 98. How the did you do this? Good and evil have cause and effect. The bad relationship that Mr. G and MRSG had formed in the beginning was ultimately revenged on their descendants. However, considering that Mr. G was old and could not live for a few years, Yu Bao did not tell the matter. She planned to wait until Mr. G passed away before telling Ji Qing about it. By then, he will probably realize that he is no longer interested in starting a family and having children. For now, Yu Bao is still very satisfied with this apprentice. She doesn't have to worry about it and he still knows how to be filial. For the long-term sustainable development of the relationship between master and disciple, Yu Bao calculated his recent fortune for him, and then told him, "Pay attention to your health recently, stay up less late, and exercise more." Ji Qing glanced at her in surprise, thinking that the other party would not say this to him for no reason, so he was planning to stay and work overtime the next day, but thinking of Yu Bao's reminder, he packed up and went back on time. A few days later, a new colleague in the company died suddenly because he had worked overtime for a week. Ji Qing couldn't help but shuddered when he thought of Yu Bao's instructions. Had he not listened to the other party's advice and not worked overtime continuously, would he have been the one who died? Yu Bao, not really. I just calculated that his body would have some minor problems due to fatigue, so I reminded him to exercise more and rest more. Because she almost got stuck on the fish balls, Gu Xingzi didn't allow her to eat while walking. Yu Bao is not happy. The happiness after school is directly reduced by half. This day, after school, Lu Zuan and Gu Zingzi played football with their classmates as usual, and Yubao was still responsible for looking after their bags. But when he was halfway through watching it, Yubao suddenly stood up, put his school bag together with the other two school bags, and was going to go to the canteen to buy an ice cream. Stop. As soon as I walked out of the playground, I was stopped by someone. Hearing the sound, Yubao stopped in confusion, raised his head and looked over. The boy who stopped her looked at her and was stunned. Yubao stood there obediently, looking like an obedient and soft little rabbit. How did you do this? Forget it, he doesn't hit girls. The boy's clenched fists unconsciously unclenched, and his cheeks turned red inexplicably. But thinking about his promise to his sister that he would help her seek justice, he couldn't help but straighten his face again and said, "Are you Luyu? Why are you bullying my sister?" Yubao blinked his eyes, with a soft and innocent look on his face. "Who is your sister?" The boy said in a rough voice, "My sister's name is Jiangxiyu. As long as you promise to apologize to my sister, I won't beat you." Yubao remembered that a little girl gave Xing Xing chocolates 2 days ago. Xing Xing didn't like eating them, so she helped eat them. Then the girl ran out crying. She remembered that the girl seemed to be named Jiangxiyu. So this is considered bullying? Okay, Yubao nodded. It was just an apology. It was a small problem. You just stand here waiting for me, and you are not allowed to leave. The boy left a hurried sentence and ran away. Yubao looked at the direction the boy was leaving, and then at the canteen in front of him. She probably had time to buy some ice cream first, and then walk towards the canteen. When she came back with ice cream in one hand and 2 bottles of water in the other, she saw the boy leading a girl looking around for something. "I'm here," Yubao walked slowly across the aisle. The girl's eyes turned red as soon as she saw her. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 99. Chapter 99. Whoever a little fairy like me hangs out with, it's unfair to everyone else. Yubao felt a sense of guilt inexplicably, and deeply reflected on her behavior. She felt that she should not eat the food she gave to Xing Xing in front of him, and that she should wait until she returned. So he sincerely apologized to the other party. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have eaten the chocolate you gave me." To Xing Xing, after a pause, he couldn't help but asked, "But the chocolate is delicious. Can you tell me where to buy it?" "Wow," the girl suddenly cried, as if she had been greatly wronged. Yubao was immediately stunned by crying. Did she say the wrong thing again? Yubao raised his head and looked at the boy with an innocent face. She has already apologized. But what should he do if his sister cries again? The boy also felt that his sister was a little confused and a little embarrassed, so he couldn't help but stare at her and said, "Why are you crying?" My younger sister felt aggrieved at first. When she saw Yubao, she thought that Gu Zingzi was only nice to her and even gave her the food he gave her. She felt very sad when she saw him. It was fine that her brother didn't comfort her, but he was cruel to her. She immediately cried harder and felt aggrieved. "Brother is a bad guy, you are all bad guys, I hate you." The girl ran away crying. The boy looked at Yubao and saw the latter looking at him with his big eyes. He couldn't help but blush again. He scratched his head and said, I'm leaving too." Took 2 steps, ran back and said, "My name is Jiangxiyu." After saying that, he ran away again. Yubao blinked and didn't understand why the other party told her his name. However, she usually just gave up on things she couldn't figure out, too lazy to continue thinking about it, and turned around to walk back. As soon as he raised his head, he saw Gu Zingzi. Young Master Gu was halfway through kicking the ball when he realized that he was missing, so he came looking for him. just in time to see the boy running towards her with a red face and saying something. Because they were too far apart, Gu Zingzi did not hear clearly what the other party said. Who was that person just now? Gu Zingzi walked towards Yubao with a cold face and asked. Yubao, oh, his name is Jiangxi Yu. When Gu Zingzi heard this, his face suddenly turned colder. When did this girl meet each other? Even knows the name. However, she has always been very popular. From an 80-year-old lady to an 8-month-old baby, there seems to be no one who dislikes her. Thinking of this, Gu Zingzi's face turned visibly worse. Yubao could sense that the opponent was in a bad mood and thought he had lost the ball. When he saw the opponent turned around without saying a word, he hurriedly followed him. Just as he was about to comfort him, he saw Lu Zuan appear out of nowhere. As soon as he saw Yubao, he shouted, "Little ant, where have you been? Why didn't you tell us? We thought you go back first." After saying that, he shook his head again and said with joy, "You didn't see it just now, but I made the final kick, so fast and hard, so handsome." Yubao raised the water in his hand and said, "I'm going to buy water for you." "Hey, how do you know I'm thirsty?" Lu Zuan immediately picked up a bottle of water, unscrewed the lid, he drank it in a few times, threw the empty bottle into the trash can nearby, and then called to her. "Go home." Being interrupted by him, Yubao also forgot what he had just said to comfort Gu Zingzi, and only handed him the remaining bottle of water. "No need," Gu Zingzi refused with a cold face. She knew that the other person was angry, but she didn't fully know. So why is the other person angry? End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 100. Chapter 100. You are a fairy, everything you say is right? Yubao turned his head and looked at Lu Zuan, who also had a blank look on his face. Although Lu's nephew is a bit short-sighted sometimes, he is not stupid. Even if he didn't notice it at first, he realized that something was wrong with the atmosphere between the two. Hunted close to Yubao's ear and whispered, "Did you offend him?" Yubao was even more confused. She didn't seem to offend him either. Could it be that he came to buy ice cream alone because he didn't tell them, so the other party was angry? This man has such a bad temper. Yubao looked at the top of Gu Zingzi's head, where a cloud of black air was hovering. I don't know if he is affected by the black energy, but I always feel that this person is becoming more and more uncertain. Moreover, the black air has become thicker and thicker recently, and even her luck can hardly be suppressed. She has worked hard to learn formations and feng shui techniques in the past few years, but she has never been able to find the best way to crack the feng shui formation on the Gu family's ancestral grave. The most sinister thing about this formation is that it uses people as its eyes, and this person is Gu Zingzi. The formation should be set up by the opponent as soon as he is born. As the opponent grows up day by day, the formation will become stronger and stronger, and will continue to steal the Gu family's luck. Once the luck fails, everyone in the Gu family will die. But if you want to break the formation, the person who is the eye of the formation will definitely die. In short, this is an out-and-out, relentless killing array. The purpose is to bury the entire Gu family with him. I don't know who has such deep hatred for the Gu family. Yubao quietly asked the system, "Xiaojin, is there really no way to break the formation?" "System, there are also ways, unless you can refine a life-sustaining pill of level 4 or above, which can bring the dead back to life. If you take it when you break the formation, you can save his life." Yubao can now refine 3rd grade top grade elixirs. Occasionally, he can also refine 4th grade pills, but the probability is very small. As for 4th grade pills and above, having to wait a little longer. But because of this, Yubao has been following Gu Zingzi during this period. Except for sleeping, the two of them stayed together whether they were in school or on vacation. I just hope that my koi luck can protect him. lest the opponent's luck be taken away too quickly. Seeing the two little guys inseparable all day long, the happiest person was Mr. Gu. At first Mr. Gu thought he would only have a few days to live well, but he did not expect that his health would get better and better after being discharged from the hospital. He felt that these were the blessings Yu Bao brought to the Gu family. Mr. Gu has been running to Lu's house frequently in the past 2 years, calling each other for my future grandson-in-law. In this regard, Mr. Lu could only call him shameless. However, Mr. Gu's shameless operation was not without results. At least people who knew each other well would inevitably make fun of Gu Xingzi and Yu Bao when they saw them walking together. Even Lu Zuan couldn't escape. From time to time he would be asked, "Anan, you went out to play with your aunt and uncle again?" Lu Zuan. There is a saying in my mind about MMP that I don't know whether to say or not. Fortunately, he had a big heart and didn't care if he was teased a few times. Instead, he smiled and extended his hand to Gu Xingzi for a favor, saying that he couldn't call me uncle in vain. Gu Xingzi doesn't like to be discussed, but his grandfather is the biggest CP fan. He always stands on the front line of CP with a group of melon-eating people. As for Yubeo, he is only interested in food and earning points, and doesn't care about anything else. If she is asked, she will hold her little face in her hands and answer seriously. Xiao Jin said that a little fairy like me will definitely be liked by many people in the future. Whoever I am with will not be fair to others. Everyone, you are a fairy, and everything you say is right. But, who is Xiaojin? Gu Xingzi had heard this name from her more than once. Yubeo, Xiaojin is my friend. Gu Xingzi put down the book in his hand and looked at her. You have friends I don't know. Logically speaking, she should know all her friends, and there is no one named Jin or with Jin in their name. Could it be that special kind of friend? Yu Bao knows that he can see ghosts, and it seems normal to have some weird friends. Yo Bao, of course, she has many friends, and it's normal to not know one or two of them, not to mention, I don't know all of your friends. Gu Xingzi glanced at her and said, whoever you want to meet, I'll introduce it to you. Really? Yu Bao's eyes lit up. She wanted to get to know the fat guy who played football with him and Anan before. She heard that his family owned a cake shop. If the relationship is good, I wonder if the other party can treat her to cake. Gu Xingzi saw her reaction in his eyes. After being silent, he changed his words, I just said it casually. This man is really moody. Who says that only girls are fickle? It's obvious that boys change their attitude faster. Beside, Lu Zuan, who was lying on the ground copying his homework, raised his head and said, Little aunt, if you want to know anyone, you can ask me. I know everyone I know in Sing Sing. As soon as he finished speaking, he felt a cool gaze falling on him. Lu Zuan couldn't help but rub his arms. Hey, why did he suddenly feel cold? I looked up at the temperature displayed on the air conditioner. It's still 26 degrees, it hasn't been lowered. Yes, Yu Bao immediately turned to look at Lu Zuan. Why didn't she think of that? Sing Sing refused to tell her that there was and Anan would definitely help her. Can you let the little fat guy who plays football with you be friends with me? Yubeo Nana's voice was soft and she looked at the dear nephew with twinkling eyes. Lu Zuan immediately patted his chest and said, Of course, I have a great time with him, but, little aunt, why do you want to know him? Could it be that he has been unlucky recently? Generally, if my aunt takes the initiative to talk to someone, something bad is probably going to happen to that person. Yo Bao, I want to eat his pop-up liquid cake, but the supply is limited and it's sold out every time I go there. If I become friends with him, I can ask him to treat me to it. Lu Zuan thinks his little aunt is really smart. Why didn't he think of it? No problem, he said, I will bring him to you tomorrow. But Gu Xingzi suddenly raised his head and said towards the kitchen, Mom, Yubeo thinks the cakes you make are not as delicious as those sold outside. Don't make them for her next time. Hearing this, Yubeo's eyes widened instantly and he looked at the other party in disbelief. I'm not, you're talking nonsense. Gu Xingzi ignored her accusing eyes and only gave her an indifferent side face. Ning Shen poked her head out of the kitchen, her hands still stained with cake flour. She looked at Yu Bao with a sad look on her face and said, "Is what Xing said true? Is the cake I made really unpalatable?" Yu Bao immediately shook his little head quickly. No, Xing is just talking nonsense. He was making things out of nothing, secretly making things up, imagining them out of thin air, and fabricating them out of thin air. She didn't say that at all. End of this chapter.